get into everything. I actually had one in our company yesterday that I'm going to steal because I thought it was a good one. But since we're getting into the holiday season, I don't know about you all, but my kids at least love to go out and drive around looking at Christmas lights. And it also makes me realize that there's a lot of other people doing that this time of year and maybe not paying quite as much attention on the roads as they're driving. So as we're going around and driving this time of year, just to be a little bit of extra conscience that that's probably there's going to be a lot of people out on the roads doing that. And it reminded me of a story, or not a story, something that actually happened to me when I was a little kid going out with my parents and looking at holiday lights. My dad was paying attention to the road, I think, but we were looking at lights and not necessarily paying attention to what was happening in the car because I was leaning out the window trying to look at all the lights as he was rolling up the window while I was still leaning out. So thankfully didn't do much other than leave a little mark on my chest, but it did remind me that
you didn't do it on purpose.
He didn't do it on purpose, that was for sure. It just, he was looking at lights and watching everybody around you. So anyway, just keep an extra bit of awareness both inside and outside the car this time of year as folks will be looking at the holiday lights and doing all that this time of year. So.
And just remember one of these days your kids can tell a story about what you did to them.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully not the same. But,
Tom, could I also suggest that if you're walking to look at the lights, you wear something reflective? I see lots of people with all black.
yes.
Still asking for it.
That's a very good point. Or if you're out this time of year, because we talked about this the last time, it's getting darker much earlier these days. So if you're, either in the morning or in the evening out for a run or a walk with the dog or whatever, always a good idea to have the reflectors on if possible. Great. Okay, so I think we all know each other now. I did want to mention there were some renominations, but also for our first meeting next year, Dan Stoddard, who's the Chief Nuclear Officer for Dominion, has actually been nominated and will be taking a seat on the authority. He couldn't be here today just because he was just nominated and had a conflict, but I know he plans to join us at our first meeting in 2022, which will be great.
And those appointments were published Monday.
Yeah, they were published on Monday. So I think Dan was the only one that was a new appointment as opposed to reappointment. Or Jeff, now I think you're officially appointed, nominated as we say. So that will be great. Anything else, introductory remarks that we need to hit, Grant or Larry? I think we're good on the policies and everything. Yeah, okay. So then we will move into an update on the decarbonization plan discussion and kind of where that stands.
Okay, and yes, and the only substantial update from when we last spoke was that the plan is now moved to the Governor's office. It's been sent up for their approval. And Al Christopher, the Energy Program Director, who spoke at the last meeting, he did just send a note. I think he mentioned this the last meeting to kind of reiterate how nuclear was treated in the draft report. So he says, since the purpose of the report required by the Clean Economy Act is to determine how the decarbonisation goals of the Act can be achieved at least cost to ratepayers, the baseline case of the model assumed that all of the goals in the Clean Economy Act would be met on the timeline specified in the Act to reach zero carbon generation by 2045 for Dominion and 2050 for APCO. The Act makes no changes to nuclear generation. Nuclear generation is considered carbon emission free and remains constant throughout the policy horizon. Hence, in the baseline case and in all the scenarios modeled, Virginia's 4 nuclear reactors are relicensed by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for operation beyond 2050. And that's where he ends. I think the implication is they only model the existing nuclear and did not consider additional nuclear.
Okay. So process-wise, it's with the Governor's office now, and then will it be published end of the year? Do we know what the timeline is for?
I should have checked. I know it's meant to be published in time for the General Assembly.
Okay.
2022. I forgot precisely, but I think probably January 1st.
And are there specific policy recommendations for the Assembly, or is it more just publishing the modeling based on the policy?
I do not know what the recommendation will be. I think that's a big, large part of the governor's office, the deliberation will be deciding what those conclusions will be.
Okay. All right. So it would be great if we can note, maybe Brandy, as the process keeps moving forward, because I imagine it'll be published before our next meeting, if we can get that out to the authority, just so we can take a look at what is published.
A quick question though.
Yep.
Will they be, is Northam working with Youngkin on this as well? Is there going to be some, or is it just going to be Northam's recommendations?
I can't be truly sure, but my understanding is we'll be with Northam.
Great, okay. So yeah, if we can see that, get a copy of it.
I just didn't catch what you said. I know you said you couldn't be sure, but
Yeah, my understanding is it's the current administration who will sign off on the report.
All right, good. Any other questions on the process or status?
No, I just think that whenever it does come out, it maybe something, since the authority wasn't able to last time, I think we did through VNEC, but you may want to just have a letter in response how to include new nuclear.
Yeah.
It needs to be considered.
Yeah, I think that's a good. Yeah, because and understanding better the methods behind the modeling and what was included or whatnot, and least costs. As we talked about last time, I think with Al, it's going to evolve, right? So this isn't the last bite at the apple, let's put it that way, in terms of the way that process would be implemented. I think one of the reasons I was thinking about this, I think it's a good thing to keep in mind, is depending on where things go with the Build Back Better proposal, which we can talk about later, but there's some significant incentives in that bill that may change the economic modeling for things like new nuclear, especially new nuclear at retired fossil sites. I mean, there's some, I haven't taken a specific look at what it'll do to the economics, but I imagine a 40% tax credit for any new clean resource is going to change things pretty drastically. So it will be something to keep an eye on. So that's good. Any other questions on that one? April, I'll turn it over to you for the VNEC update.
Well, in the Build Back Better proposal, we're not supposed to find out until next week. I've gotten a note that says no, but I haven't gotten a note that has asked any questions either. So I did call the other day because grants.gov has 24-hour service. But they're very nice. And we're still in the process, so we'll see. Again, I will just reiterate, this may not be the right place for this grant proposal for us, but I think there'll be other opportunities. We are going to start some of the conversations that need to be had that are in the grants. We're talking about siting, looking at supply chain. Put together a meeting for probably January, early February, to do that with the industry and all those that participated in the grant. I think that even though we don't have some of the funding, there's still some conversations that we can have to start stepping forward in the process. So we're working on that. And then I gave you all an outline for the hub proposal. The universities are still working with the writer right now. There's still a couple things they're trying to work through. So I didn't have the proposal itself a draft proposal to give you today that I felt comfortable with where they're at right now. But we're close. I will say the writer has done a very good job working with the universities and trying to narrow down the focus and making sure that this is set up to be achievable goals. So as soon as I do have a draft to you all, I will get it to you. It's just a work in progress, and I will just honestly tell you, I just think they're going in a good direction. And it's just taking some time, and there's just some conversations that need to be had before we can put into the proposal. We're definitely not rushing to put it together. We're just taking our time. As I always stress to them, I want to think about longevity. This is being an organization that can stand on its own, and they're really looking at finding on how to do that in a phased out process. I don't think I have.
Can we, I think it might be useful if everybody wants to take a couple minutes and just look through the proposal outline, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about that, ask if folks have questions, and then we can talk about maybe next steps in terms of actually looking at the formal proposal when it's ready and where we go.
The one other thing I have is I am working to get in touch with the Governor-elect Lincoln and just talking about the strategic plan and what we've been doing. Just trying to make sure that we are on the radar. I would love for the Governor's energy plan this time around to include nuclear. I think that's really important, and I'm really stressing that. And I'm also working with the Virginia Energy Workforce Consortium to also make sure that nuclear, not just nuclear, but the energy workforce is included. There's such a need and there's importance for energy workforce, also included in the energy plan. On Friday, tomorrow, the Chamber is releasing their blueprint. I've been told that several of our items for the new energy from the strategic plan has been included. I have not seen it, so I don't know which items there are, but just to know that will be out tomorrow.
So April, have you actually made contact with the transition team? Other than reaching out, I mean, I know you've done that.
Yeah, we reached out. Actually, someone called me just yesterday and wanted me to some input. So I'm just waiting for a call. But we have been reaching out. One of the things to note is Senator Newman, who, one of the reasons why we're all sitting in this room together is in Florida. He was one of the patrons for putting VNEC and VNEC together. He is on the transition team, so you would have spoken to him. So I think every administration, it just takes them a little while to get going. Once I think they start making appointments, we'll start seeing more.
So the question on the hub, is that a virtual hub or is there a place, and if so, do we know where it will be?
That is a question that is under conversation. Right now, it will be something, a virtual. I'm hoping that they'll have a person in place, like an executive director, to help manage. I don't know where that person will sit. But they hope to strive to have brick and mortar at some point, but not straight away.
If I may, I believe some of the discussion was it would be a rotating executive director based on.
We've changed that.
Has that been changed?
We've changed some of that, yes. It's a lot different from what the original one you see. I mean, I'm not going to say a lot. There's some differences on management. I've stressed to them to actually hire somebody. Leadership from the universities will be rotated.
So, let's take a minute and just take a look at the outline, because I have a couple maybe more detailed questions.